What y'all listening to?
Limelight Highlight Podcast.
Welcome back to the show, your positive podcast, safe space and great place for a positive outlook on life. As always, I am your host, Jonathan Rosario, aka J Rose. And on this episode of the podcast, we're joined by Josh Black, the founder of Black Attire. Under the personal philosophy of be you, be true, and be great, and built on the principles of providing great quality with dope style, Black Attire delivers premium products with exclusivity to consumers. Josh is also a rapper, producer, and the founder of Black Vibes, which is a record label that he created himself. And in this podcast, we talk about his passion for music, what motivates him, and what movements he is supporting through his clothing line, as well as a plethora of other topics that cover racial injustices, the Black Lives Matter movement, and some of the things that we need to change in order to progress as a society that have to do with things like prison reform as well as police reform. We touch a little bit on the politics, just a lot of the climate that's going on today. This was a very real and raw conversation that I thoroughly enjoyed. And quick disclaimer, for those of you with little ones around, there is some explicit language in this podcast. In case that isn't your thing, I just wanted to give you a heads up before you dive any deeper. I hope out of this podcast you have a little bit of better of an understanding on what the mentality is like in Philadelphia and some of the things that people who grow up in the city have to deal with. Josh is a very passionate individual, and I hope that comes across very well in this episode. This is the 5th episode that I recorded back in August after the Block to School event that we had, but the timeline and the topics we cover are as relevant as any recent news story today. Before I accidentally give away any more spoilers from this episode, let's hit up this week's unrelated fun fact, and then dive right into the show. So, this week's unrelated fun fact has to do with space. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a Star Wars fan, and I absolutely love the Mandalorian show that's on Disney+. And with it coming back in October, one thing that show has a lot to do with is space travel. Obviously, it's Star Wars, it's in space. While we're probably light years away from traveling through space the way they do in the movies, I always wondered how long it would take us to actually leave our atmosphere and get into space if we had, those quick little spaceships. A spaceship that we have today takes about 9 minutes to get to space after takeoff because it's being propelled by all those crazy rockets and stuff. But after they did some math and stuff like that, here's your unrelated fun fact is if you got in your car and turned on the ignition and drove up to the sky at 60 miles an hour, it would take just an hour to get into outer space. I, for one, have zero desire to go to space because I think it's scary and empty and vast, but just to think it would only take an hour in a regular car is pretty cool in my opinion. So that's your unrelated fun fact that I thought I should share. And now that we got that through, let's stop wasting your time and welcome Josh to the show. I hope you enjoy. All right, I'm here with Josh from Black Attire. Let's just get right into it and let people know who you are, why you're here, and just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I got you. So, my name's Josh. People call me JB Black. I'm from Philly. Grew up right here. Black Attire is the clothes, like the whole clothing brand, and then I have a record label. It's called like Black Vibes. So, pretty much, the clothes is something I wanted to do since forever. As a kid, growing up, streetwear shit, all that, I fucked with it. Just can never do it. The shit. Now looking back at it, you need money, you need time, you need even graphic, you need a computer, you need all the shit you need is when you're a kid. You fuck with Supreme, but you don't even realize that, to do all that, to print, money, time, energy, and what, I'll say for the most part, especially from where we from, what 15-year-old, 16-year-old got all that. So,
and styles constantly change.
Mm-hmm.
But I know when we was growing up, double XLs and saggy, big-ass clothes was the shit, and now
Mm-hmm.
Everything's form-fitting, somewhat tight-fitting.
Exactly. So pretty much I couldn't even put that into make it a reality until like I don't even know how old is I, like 23, maybe 22, 23.
How old are you now?
27.
Okay.
So what happened was it was really off of luck. So one of my brothers, he was in like a youth like facility upstate. He had came back and was in this program. That way, keep kids off the street type of thing. And when the guy that had the program just had a screen printing machine. And then he's just like, yo, somehow I met him and he was just like, yo, if you want to do something, I'll give you this and you could just do your thing. So I'm like, I bet. You ain't got to tell me twice. So I did some dumb shit. So what I had, like, in my head, I'm thinking, like, all right, look, I'm about to drop music. I'm about to drop these clothes. The whole thing about to go crazy. So I remember I went to, like, Walmart or somewhere. I bought, like, 150 shirts. Like, 50 gray, 50 white, and 50 black. And the original thing, so I was doing it with, like, the Life album. It was, like, a Life magazine cover. And so I screen printed. When I was telling you, I'm buying crazy amount of ink, crazy amount of like the printer, for like
the screens,
the heat
right?
press
okay,
paper.
I got you. Yeah.
So like that shit expensive. I'm buying the ink, all that shit. Just
and this is all out of pocket. You haven't made anything yet. You haven't sold anything yet.
Nah, just like in my head, I'm thinking like, nah, I just gotta put this out and then go with it. So I'm doing it. Back hurting. Because I'm like, I don't know when he's going to ask for this machine back.
Yeah.
So I just started doing it. I'm packaging them up. I'm putting like candy in them and like trying to make them as, like you probably buy from like local brands and you can, now I can notice when like they just starting because it's the same shit that I was on where like you try your best for what you got. So I would do a little shit like that without having like professional cards, professional bags. You just try to make it work.
Some little extra. Like thank you for purchasing with me.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then that shit kind of flopped, I guess. Out of 150 shirts, it didn't like all sell crazy. Like I would get some and doing whatever, but then it got to the point where I just got so many shirts. I'm like, I'm gonna just start giving these shits away. Like I started at one point I was throwing parties. I'd give shirts away at the parties, just trying to get it out. Because at that point I saw it as like I already lost the bread. I got to make new stuff, which is the hardest part about the clothes is like you got to keep making new shit, because if you got 3 shirts and no one likes it, they might like the 4th. But if you're not making the 4th, they're not even getting there. So that's pretty much how that started. And then, just tried to get better. And then I actually dropped the clothes before the music, and then the music dropped like that same year. And then
now, did you want to do that to have something like, oh, what you wearing? It's like, oh, yo, this dude, from Black Vibes.
Yeah, so pretty much the whole point of the clothing brand, like I said, besides just being that kid that like, yo, I wanted like the shit I never wore before. And it's crazy because I kind of put it in, it's a song I got called Same Clothes. And on the 3rd verse, I kind of like addressed this shit. But it was really because I remember like, I wanted Bape, I wanted, what's the Pharrell John? A BBC, Supreme. Like growing up, I wanted all of them shits. Ice Cream.
All the artists was wearing, the hot shit.
I just never got. Like to this day, still never even.
That
now
expensive.
Yeah, and now I don't even care too much because I could like, I do my own shit, and you see how when someone else local got something, it's like, all right, let me just rock with this. But yeah, you still just wanted that shit. So like, besides just that, it was really just to also have something. Whether rap don't work or at a certain point, it's like I could still be 60 and making clothes. All them fashion designers dumb old. Like you know what I mean? So it's just something where it's like, all right, I ain't got to be.
You saw the longevity in making clothes versus
like because it don't got to be about me. You know what I mean? Music is you. So like clothes, I could hire somebody to just take it over and do their thing on it, and that was pretty much it. And then just to combine it with like the merch with the now I did it specifically where like the merch strictly be like music and the Black Attire stuff be like whatever I want. You gotta
separate it, right.
Okay. And that was all that learning too, trying to figure out because for the longest time you know, people is just like, you realize how branding and marketing help, because for the longest time, I had like the life images, and people was like, yo, I need like your life brand crazy. And I'm like, damn, that's not even what it's called.
Yeah.
So when you got to do that, it's like, you got to just, you know, step back and
keep adapting and keep coming up with stuff. What's I mean, you're talking about all the stuff that trial and error. A lot of people that I've talked to, especially throughout this whole week, have been all about trial and error. Yo, we tried this, it didn't work out, but we figured out the kinks. And I mean, you grow. That's how you grow. You fail and you keep trying. What's one thing you think is that you constantly run into as far as designs or getting something out there or marketing? Like, what's one constant thing that keeps coming up that you haven't figured out, or maybe that you just recently figured out?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest shit really, it's going to sound like you don't really got an answer for it, but it'd be the fucking unknowns. Like, every time you think you got something figured out, it'd be like, here's an unknown that, like, damn, how the fuck, like, and that happened. A curve,
life.
pretty much. And, like, that's why, from everything I've done, you know, I just had to take a step back because, like, as you know, right, you're doing the podcast, you probably got times where, like, you think you got it figured out, and then something else happens, and then something else happens. So
just recently, we did a podcast after the Block the School event.
Yeah.
Where we all been drinking and shit, but we were on the mic. We did a whole hour and a half podcast. Trash. The entire thing. Not the quality of the conversation, but the actual recording itself was trash.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear myself. Everything was in and out. Everybody's screaming over each other. And it's like, till this day right now, like when we start recording, I'm like, I really hope this shit's picking up everything. Cause to recreate this, you know, we in the moment, to recreate that it's not going to sound as good as the first time. You know?
Nah, I feel you. Nah, that's like, so yeah, I think that's the hardest shit is like, it's always an unknown that you think, and that happened from like fucking clothes to music, and not even so much music, but it's a lot more times of like business stuff. Like I would throw like parties, and I think I'd have it figured out, and then boom, here come another just random ass like, why is this happening? Or here comes another thing that you got to try to hurdle to get over and make it work. But what I had to realize is, I remember because it was this one shorty that was helping me, like, you know, set up the event, like when I would throw parties. And I think probably as somebody who just like a creative person, or has a business, or like you working on to the next thing, it's kind of hard to just fucking focus on like, yo, look at what you doing, and take it all in that moment, right? Because you always like, you on this podcast, but you know you probably got somebody lined up whenever, and you got, so in your head you always thinking of like, all right, so for the next one I can make this one better. You're not even enjoying it. So I remember I was throwing a party, and the shorty was like I'm looking, I'm like, it was like the lighting or something. Like the venue was big. It was only the second one I did. I was performing, someone else was performing. The venue was big. The only thing I didn't like was it had a bar and everything, but it was the lights. Like they weren't dark like party lights. It was like kind of like, it was like a lounge like lighting. And for whatever reason, I'm like, damn, it's too many people like talking, not really. They enjoying themselves, but I'm like caught up in like, I don't know.
You had an idea of what you wanted it to be, and it wasn't what you wanted.
And then I'm like, all right, so for the next time I do it, I'm gonna have to fix it. And like she was just like, yo, relax. Like, look, it's over 100 people here just enjoying themselves on some shit that you did. Like, take that in. And from that moment forward, I was really just like, I really just started focusing on like, you know, being proud of myself on like little things. And one of the things that like I always be saying is like, you know, progress over perfection, because you'll try so hard to chase perfection, but I feel like
it's unobtainable.
And yeah, and I feel like if you do get it, I feel like, you know, it's one of those things where you might not get it again. So like, I feel like you can get it. You might get the perfect podcast. You might get that one.
Yeah.
So you keep trying to get it, and it's like, yo, why is this one not like this?
It's like chasing a high. Yeah.
Exactly. Like if I got a song that everybody likes, now I'm sitting here